Alright, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you an old abandoned Pentecostal summer camp on the shores of Little Manitou Lake in Saskatchewan. This whole area has so many interesting features. The lake itself is known as the Dead Sea of Canada for its high salt content that helps people easily float in the water. Last year I did videos on the resort village of Manitou Beach, which sits on the shores of this lake, as well as the nearby town of Watrous, which has a ton of interesting history. I have a few more videos from this area coming up that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope you'll stick around for those. Thank you to everyone in the town of Watrous for all your assistance. Jeff Siegfried at the Watrous Manitou Marketing Group, as well as Paula Letkeman at the Heritage Center, have gone above and beyond in helping with these projects. We visited this old abandoned camp on a brisk and sunny morning in mid-November. Regrettably, I completely forgot the batteries for my gimbal stabilizer. I'm still kicking myself for that, but I think I still got some decent footage. I was accompanied to this abandoned site by a team of local residents. A big thank you to Milton Letkeman for driving us out to this location. I never pitched in on gas, so I definitely owe you a coffee. Longtime resident Dan Mierau provided a wealth of knowledge on this area. His family used to own this land, and he talked about his experiences hauling fresh water to the camp every day during the summer to fill their concrete cisterns. And then Sue Alcock, who has done extensive research for the local Heritage Center, also provided valuable information about the site. Sue also provided these cool aerial photos she took while flying over this site about 5 years ago. It was an absolute pleasure spending time with these folks. They drove me around this whole area and showed me some other really cool places, some of which I'll show you in a future video. So most of the structures on this site were built by the Living Waters Pentecostal Camp, and they were at this location for several decades. However, prior to the church camp occupying this space, it was used for a different purpose. In 1915, Miss Anna Brown built a sanitarium at this location, which is about 9 or 10 kilometers west of Manitou Beach. Guests would arrive in this area by train, arriving in the nearby towns of Watrous and Xena, where they would be met at the station and driven down to the lake. Anna Brown's establishment was very high class for the time, featuring hot baths and fine dining. Besides the big main building you can see in this picture, Miss Brown also built a bunch of smaller cabins around the perimeter. The sanitarium was given the name Muskaki Wapui, which means healing or medicine water, and the camp provided therapeutic rest and relaxation for its patrons. Anna Brown would pass away in 1940, and in fall of 1942, the property was bought by the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada and renamed the Living Waters Camp. Renovations were completed prior to reopening, and the church camp built several new buildings, including the main tabernacle, dormitories, and a large dining hall. Various camps and church services took place over the summer months. I read in a local history book that the church services featured full bands, providing, quote, rousing and influencing music. I personally grew up attending a Pentecostal summer camp that my ancestors helped build, and so places like this have quite a bit of personal meaning for me. The Living Waters Camp operated for 32 years until 1974. They would move to a new location in Saskatchewan, and they sold their lakeside facility to the Metis Cooperative Camp, who operated a children's camp for 1 or 2 summers. And so as far as I can tell, this camp has been abandoned since about 1976, and so for nearly half a century these buildings have been gradually succumbing to the elements. The remaining structures were built in the 1940s and abandoned for decades, and as you can see they're in pretty rough shape. It seems like this was a really enjoyable place to spend time. Little Manitou Lake is a very unique spot, and it definitely has a distinct vibe that sets it apart from other prairie lakes. Some of the buildings at the camp have been completely destroyed by the elements. The lake has flooded several times over the decades, and this has obviously helped quicken the deterioration of these structures. The old dining hall was one of the largest buildings at the camp, and as you can see, it's been completely caved in. On the west side of this building, you can see the old concrete cisterns used for holding water. At the bottom of one of these cisterns, we came across an animal skeleton of some sort. I'm very curious what animal this was. Maybe someone watching this can help me out. Another interesting detail was this old outhouse with different levels for adults and children. I hadn't seen a communal outhouse like this before, and using this facility would have been an interesting experience. This building here was the main dormitory. Like everything else, it's in pretty rough shape, and it's pretty basic. I didn't come across many interior details, although I did come across this old mattress. There was a notable lack of graffiti that you'll frequently find at other abandoned sites. This old campsite is relatively isolated and unknown. I talked to a few longtime residents of this area who hadn't even heard of it. Overall, this was a very fun experience, and I'm really grateful that I got to visit this camp. I just love visiting these old abandoned locations. It's fascinating to walk through these places decades after they've been occupied. It was also cool to learn more about the history of this area. Honestly, the area around Little Manitou Lake is a treasure trove of interesting history. A big thank you to Milton, Dan, and Sue for taking me on this trip and teaching me about this location. I really appreciate you guys giving up a big chunk of your Saturday to do this. They also showed me some other interesting local spots, and I'm going to show you some of that footage in a future video. I also have a couple videos coming up featuring some interesting aspects of the nearby town of Watrous. I'm really looking forward to those, and I hope you'll check those out as well. Again, shout out to Jeff at the Watrous Manitou Marketing Group and Paula at the Heritage Center for all your help. If you're visiting the town of Watrous, you absolutely have to stop by their museum and Heritage Center. This is a much more comprehensive facility than you'll typically find in a small town. This is a very impressive museum. If anyone out there has more pictures of this church camp, I'd love to see those. And please leave your comments below if you want to share any memories associated with this location. And that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. I hope you found this interesting and informative. And if you haven't already, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I upload a variety of Canadian content, and I typically post something new about once a week. And if you want to support my channel further, you can buy me a coffee, and there's a link to that below. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Strange North channel.